As well, there is an old saying in Korea that every grandmother whispers to her grandchildren when the sun dips below the horizon, "Do not whistle at night, or the snakes will come." But in the deep, mist-choked valleys of Gangwon-do, well, the elders know that snakes is just a euphemism. They are not afraid of reptiles. Well, they are afraid of the Gwai-sin spirits and the Dokhabi goblins that ride the wind. As well, they are afraid of things that listen for a signal, an invitation to cross over from the shadows. Well, in November 2022, 3 content creators, Min Jun, a seal-based urban explorer, So-en, a folklore researcher, well, and Dave, an American videographer, vanished while investigating the abandoned village of Oksunri. Well, the village does not appear on Naver maps. It was erased from official records in 1998, following a series of unexplained landslides and a mass exodus of its residents. The following narrative is reconstructed from the recovered SD cards found in Dave's smashed camera, located by a hiker near the Hwayam cave entrance. Well, it asks the question, well, when the mountain mimics your voice, why must you never answer back? Well, the Hyundai Starex van struggled up the gravel incline, its tires crunching loudly against the loose slate of the mountain road. As well, outside, the autumn foliage of Gangwon province was burning with color blood reds and bruised purples, but the beauty was dampened by a thick, gray fog that clung to the windshield. Well, cut the engine, Min Jun commanded from the passenger seat. We walk from here. The noise will disturb the atmosphere. Dave, who was driving, sighed. Man, it's freezing. Well, and the GPS says we're still 3 kilometers out. That's the point, So-en spoke up from the back. Well, she was clutching a bag of coarse sea salt and a bottle of soju, traditional protective items. Oksunri was abandoned because the road washed out. If we drive, we might get stuck. Well, if we walk, we show respect. Well, they parked the van near a rusted guardrail. Well, as they unloaded their gear, red Komodo cameras, parabolic microphones, and thermal sensors, the silence of the mountain hit them. It wasn't the peaceful silence of nature. It was a vacuum. No cicada. Well, no birds. Just the wind hissing through the tall silver grass oaks. Min Jun adjusted his GoPro. Mic check. With testing, So-en, give us the history for the intro. So-en looked at the camera, her face pale. Well, she was a woman who believed in the old ways, unlike the 2 men who treated this as a content farm. Oksunri, she began, her voice trembling slightly. In the 1970s, it was a prosperous village known for its shamanic shrine. But in 1991, the village head shaman, the Mudang, died suddenly during a gut ritual. After that, people started hearing voices from the mountain, voices of their dead relatives. Within a month, the village was empty. They left everything behind. Was spooky. Dave grinned, shouldering the heavy camera rig. Let's go find some ghosts. The hike took an hour. When they finally broke through the tree line, Oksunri revealed itself like a rotting corpse. Well, about 20 traditional Hanok houses lay scattered in the valley bowl. As well, the clay walls were crumbling and the tiled roofs had caved in, looking like broken rib cages. Well, weeds grew through the floorboards, strangling the furniture that was indeed still there. Well, Minjun led the way, stepping over a rotted gate. Look as well, look at this, he whispered, pointing his flashlight into the first house. Well, a dinner table was set. Bowls of rice had long since turned to black dust. Silver chopsticks lay neatly arranged. Well, a calendar on the wall hung crooked, frozen on October 1991. When they left in the middle of dinner, Dave observed, filming a close-up of a child's shoe left near the door. Why run so fast you leave your shoes? Panic, Soen said. She was standing in the courtyard, staring at a massive Zelkova tree in the center of the village. Wrapped around the trunk were layers of rotting, colorful fabric, red, blue, yellow, shaman ribbons. But they had been slashed. But someone desecrated the guardian tree. Minjun moved deeper into the village, his excitement growing. This is gold. Where the lighting is perfect. Dave, get a shot of me walking down the main path. I want to do a monologue about the isolation. Dave nodded and moved about 50 meters back to get a wide angle. Minjun began walking, talking into his lapel mic. The wind picked up as well and howled through the broken windows of the empty houses, creating a low, mournful flute sound. And then Dave did it. Bored while waiting for Minjun to finish his take, Dave began to whistle. Well, it was a mindless habit, a catchy pop tune he'd heard on the radio. Well, a sharp, high-pitched melody that cut through the heavy, damp air of the valley. Tweet-hoo, baso and fro. But she spun around, her eyes wide with horror. Stop, she hissed, rushing toward Dave. Dave, stop. Dave stopped, looking confused. What, I meant just passing time. Never whistle in the mountains, Soen whispered, grabbing his arm. Her grip was tight, painful. Especially not here. Well, especially not at twilight. Relax, Soen. It's just superstition, Minjun called out, walking back toward them. The snakes aren't going to come out in this temperature. It's not snakes, Soen said, looking up at the darkening ridges surrounding them. But whistling signals that you are lonely. It signals that you want company. And in a place like this, you do not want company, the reply. As well, they decided to set up base camp in the village hall, the only concrete structure that seemed stable. Well, as the sun began to dip behind the peaks, casting long, skeletal shadows across the valley, the temperature plummeted. They set up 3 static cameras, one facing the guardian tree, one in the main street, and one inside the hall. As well, at 7:42 p.m., according to the timecode on the recovered footage, they were eating instant ramen by the light of a camping lantern. Did you hear that? Minjun stopped chewing. Hear what? Dave asked. A whistle. But Dave laughed. Do Dante try to scare Soen? I stopped hours ago. No, Minjun stood up, walking toward the window covered in plastic sheeting. It sounded, well, exactly like the tune you were whistling earlier. They fell silent. From outside, In the pitch-black darkness, it came. Tweet-hoo, tweet-hoo. It was identical to Dave's whistle, but same pitch, same rhythm. But there was something wrong with it. It sounded flat, mechanical, like a recording played back on a damaged tape. Dave stood up, his face losing color. Is there someone else out here? Hello? When Min-jun shouted through the window. Is anyone there? Well, silence. Then from a different direction from the dense woods behind the hall the whistle came again. Tweet-hoo. Well, then from the left. Tweet-hoo. Then from the right. Tweet-hoo. Well, it's moving too fast, So-en whispered, backing away from the walls. No human can move that fast. Well, it's an echo, Dave rationalized, though his hands were shaking as he picked up his camera. Well, just a weird acoustic trick of the valley. Echoes fade, Dave, So-en said, tears forming in her eyes. Well, they don't get closer. And she was right. The next whistle didn't come from the woods. It came from the courtyard, right outside the door. Min-jun grabbed a heavy tripod. I'm going to check it out. Well, if it's a prankster, I'm going to break their legs. Don't he open the door? So-en cried out. But Min-jun was already turning the handle. He pushed the metal door open. With the beam of his flashlight cut through the darkness. The courtyard was empty. The weeds swayed in the wind, while the guardian tree stood ominous and silent. See? Nothing, Min-jun exhaled, turning back to the group. Well, but as he turned, a voice called out from the darkness behind him. Min-jun! Min-jun froze. It was a woman's voice. Fima soft. Mom, he whispered. Well, Min-jun, what is it? Dave asked from inside. I heard my mom, Min-jun said, his eyes unfocused. He took a step out into the night. She called my name. Well, Min-jun, your mother is in Seal, So-en screamed, lunging forward to grab his jacket. It's a trap. It's a Jangsan Byum the tiger Amity? Jang-san. No, she sounds hurt. Min-jun shook So-en off. Mom, are you out there? Min-jun. Well, help me, it's cold. Well, the voice was coming from the darkness beyond the guardian tree. Well, it sounded wet, gurgling, yet distinctly like his mother. I have to help her, Min-jun said. When, before Dave or So-en could stop him, he sprinted into the dark. No! Dave yelled, grabbing his camera and running after him. Dave, wait. So-en grabbed the salt bag and ran after them. Well, they ran through the overgrown paths, their flashlights swinging wildly. Min-jun, Dave screamed. Dave, help me. Dave skidded to a halt. Well, the voice came from a dilapidated house to his right. It was Min-jun's voice. Min-jun. Dave pointed the camera at the house. Well, buddy, are you in there? Dave, my leg. I broke my leg. What happened? But Dave rushed toward the rotting wooden porch. Dantes. So-en tackled Dave from behind, knocking him into the mud. Get off me. He's hurt. But Dave struggled. Listen. So-en hissed, holding his face in the dirt. Listen closely to the voice. Dave, help me. Dave, help me. But Dave listened. Well, the inflection, well, the tone, it was identical, every time. It wasn't a person speaking. It was a loop. Well, it's not him, Dave whispered, horror dawning on him. It is stealing his voice, So-en sobbed. It eats the sounds we make. You whistled. You invited it. Now it knows us. Well, suddenly, the voice in the house changed. It stopped sounding like Min Jun. As well, it shifted into a high-pitched, screeching laughter that sounded like metal grinding on glass. Well, and then, from the darkness of the open doorway of the house, something stepped out. Well, was on all fours. Well, it was pale, covered in long, white hair that dragged on the ground. It had no face, just a gaping, vertical mouth. And it looked at them, as well. The creature stood on the rotting porch, illuminated only by the frantic strobe of Dave's dropped flashlight. Well, it was impossibly long, its limbs seemingly having too many joints. The white hair matted with mud and dried leaves obscured its features, but the sound coming from it was unmistakable. Tweet who? Well, it whistled Dave's tune perfectly. Then it spoke in Min Jun's voice. Run. Dave and So-en scrambled up from the mud, but they didn't need to be told twice. Well, they turned and sprinted back toward the village hall, their boots slipping on the wet foliage. Well, behind them, the creature moved. It didn't run like a dog or a cat. It scuttled a fluid, slithering motion that was terrifyingly fast. It sounded like dry leaves being crushed by a heavy roller. The van, Dave yelled. Forget the gear! Well, get to the van. Well, they bypassed the hall and headed straight for the mountain path. Well, the fog had descended fully now, reducing visibility to a few feet. Min Jun, Dave screamed as they ran, guilt tearing at him. We can to leave him. He is already gone. So-en cried, clutching her side. If you hear him, it means he is dead. It is using his last breaths. They reached the edge of the village, but the incline up to the road was steep. Well, Dave hauled So-en up, his lungs burning. Well, from the village below, a cacophony erupted. Well, it wasn't just one voice anymore. It was a chorus. Dave, son. Mom, help me. Tweet woo. Well, the sound echoed from every house, every tree. The entire village was screaming at them in their own voices. They reached the van. Dave fumbled for the keys, his hands shaking so violently he dropped them in the gravel. Well, come on, come on! So-en shone her light back down the path. Well, something white was flowing up the hill. Well, it moved like quicksilver. As well, Dave grabbed the keys, unlocked the door, and they threw themselves inside. He slammed the lock. He jammed the key into the ignition. Click. Click, the engine to turn over. No, don't do this. But Dave slammed the steering wheel. The battery was dead. The salt, So-en yelled. She ripped open the bag of sea salt she had been carrying. It hates purity. Cover the windows. She began frantically throwing handfuls of salt at the windows and the dashboard. Thump. Something slammed into the side of the van. Well, the entire vehicle rocked on its suspension. Thump. Something hit the roof. But Dave cowered in the driver's seat. What do we do? What is that thing? So-en was reciting a Buddhist sutra, her eyes squeezed shut. It is a Jangsenbyum. It lures people with the sounds of their loved ones. As well, it has been starving since the village emptied. Above them, on the metal roof of the van, they heard a sound. Scratch, scratch, and then a face appeared. Inverted, hanging over the windshield. It was covered in long white hair, but the hair parted. There were no eyes, just a pale, smooth surface. And below it, a mouth that opened vertically, stretching from where the chin should be down to the chest. It pressed against the glass, and it spoke in Dave's voice. "Open the door, Dave." But Dave screamed. Laid on the horn. Beeswelp. The sudden loud mechanical noise seemed to startle the creature. It recoiled, sliding off the hood. So-en realized. It mimics, but it hates loud, mechanical noise. It confuses it. My phone. Dave grabbed his phone. He connected it to the car's Bluetooth, which was somehow still working on the auxiliary battery. He pulled up his music library. He found the loudest, most chaotic track he had, heavy metal. He blasted the volume to the max. Drums and distorted guitars erupted from the van speakers. The creature on the roof screeched a sound that shattered the side mirror glass. It thrashed wildly, sliding off the roof and tumbling into the brush. "It works," Dave yelled. Suddenly, the dashboard lit up. As well. The vibration of the bass, or the sheer luck of the moment, jolted the starter motor. The engine roared to life. Dave slammed the car into reverse, spinning the tires in the gravel. He didn't look back. He floored it, careening down the winding mountain road. The heavy metal music blasting as a shield against the silence. Dave and So-en made it to the nearest police station in Jongseon at 300 am. They were hysterical, covered in mud, claiming a monster had taken their friend. The police launched a search at dawn. They found the van where Dave had parked it. They hiked down to the village. They found all the camera gear. They found the sleeping bags. They did not find Min-jun. However, inside the village hall, they found Min-jun's audio recorder. As well, it was sitting in the center of the room, turned on. When the police analyzed the audio, the first 2 hours were just the sound of the wind. As well, but at the very end of the recording, right before the battery died, there was a sound. It was the sound of a man weeping softly. And then, a voice, Min-jun's voice, whispering. It learned my name. Now I have to teach it yours. And then, the recording ended with a sharp, cheerful whistle. Tweet-whoop. Dave returned to America a week later. He never works in film anymore. He lives in a city, somewhere loud, somewhere that never sleeps. He sleeps with a white noise machine turned up to maximum volume. So-en quit her research. She became a nun in a temple in the southern provinces, taking a vow of silence. As for the village of Oksunri, it remains abandoned. The local government has put up a fence and a warning sign. It doesn't say danger, landslides. It simply says, "Do not enter after sunset. Do not make unnecessary noise." So I ask you this as well. If you are ever hiking in the beautiful mountains of Korea and the silence feels a little too heavy, it's when you hear a whistle from the trees that sounds just like a tune, what would you do? Would you be polite and whistle back? Or would you run before it learns your voice